Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some delicious brown sugar butter pecan scones. So the things you're going to need are 2 cups of flour, half a cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, half of a teaspoon of salt, half a cup of cold butter that's cut up into some chunks, half a cup of toasted pecans, and to toast these all I did was throw them in the oven on a sheet of tin foil for about 10 minutes and I baked it at 350. And then you'll also need some heavy cream, 3/4 of a cup, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. You're also going to need a mixing bowl, a spatula or a whisk, as well as a cutting board. Now for this recipe, I'm going to be showing you how to make the scone parts first, and then later on I'll show you how to do the glaze. So if you just want the scones, then you can just watch this part of the recipe, but if you want the glaze, then stick around for the entire video. So first, we're going to take our flour, in there we go, and our brown sugar, our baking powder, and our salt, and we're going to mix this all together. So this recipe makes 8 scones. You can easily double it if you want to make more. Just trying to get rid of the big brown sugar chunks. There we go. That's gonna be good. And then we are going to mix in or fold in our pecans. So that, perfect. Next we're gonna put our spatula aside. If you have a pastry cutter, you can use that. I just like to use my hands. We're going to take our butter and we are going to crumble it into the mixture until we get kind of chunks that are like pea-sized. So we don't want to overwork it. And one thing we have to be careful of if we are using our hands is just that our heat melts the butter. And we don't want that. So if you find that your butter is getting like too melted, you can put this mixture in the fridge for a little bit just to cool it down, and then you can work at it again. But you basically just grab the dough that we're making, squeeze it. The flour is going to attach onto the butter. This is how we're gonna get some nice and flaky scones. For any sort of dough recipe, the one thing that we're looking for is to not overmix. As soon as we overmix it, then it becomes a little bit more dry. So same with like breads, muffins, anything like that. Overmixing can make your mixture fall apart a little bit. And we're looking for a nice flaky texture. Okay, there we go. That's not too bad. There's still some like bigger butter chunks. There's some smaller ones, but that'll be perfectly fine. There we go. Alrighty, now we are going to mix in our vanilla. There we go. And our heavy cream. And once again for this, we're not looking to overmix it. We're just looking for the dough to start to come together a little bit. And then once the dough has come together, then we will start folding it. So we're pretty much just looking for the dough to not just be a soggy mess. Which we're pretty close here. Scoop that guy back in. There we go. Now we're going to take our cutting board and we're going to sprinkle a little bit of flour. So we'll sprinkle a little bit of flour onto the cutting board. That's probably too much. So I'm just going to put that off to the side. And then we're going to take our dough and put it on the board for us to knead. I'm just going to do that because otherwise it's going to get everywhere, and then I'll do it in a second batch. So there we go. I'll bring that flour back in. Yeah, it's a little wet. I do need that rest of the dough right now. There we go. And from here, I can't remember if I mentioned it already, you can preheat your oven to 400 degrees. There we go. I still have a little bit of dough left in my bowl. I'll bring that in. So it seems like it's never going to come together, and then it does. There we go. And then you can even, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more flour. There we go. Perfect. So now we're just kneading it a few times just to make sure that the dough is fully combined, pick up any of the scraps that were left behind. And then once you're happy with it, we're going to form it into a disc. So you can flatten it out a little bit. We're looking for 8. We're going to cut it into 8. So we're looking for a disc of 8. I'm just going to put a little bit more flour down. There we go. And I definitely do want some thick scones, so I'm probably only going to squeeze it down to about like an inch and a half. It completely depends how thick you like your scones. I think that looks okay. There we go. And then I'm going to grab a knife and we're going to cut it into 8. Right, so I have a baking sheet that I have lined with a silicone baking sheet. And I'm just going to be placing the cut scones onto this sheet. So first I'm going to cut, and mind my cutting because I cannot cut evenly to save my life. So I'm sure you can do a better job than I can with this. So I'm going to cut it into 8. Okay. Bring these guys on. And there we go. There's our scones. Now, if you want, you can kind of shape them a little bit better. So like this edge is kind of wonky. So I'm just gonna like push it down a little bit. Just so you can get like nicely shaped scones. My scones always, they never look super, super pretty. But work with what we got. Just kind of cleaning the edges up a little bit, and then this step is completely optional, but if you have any heavy whipping cream left over, you can paint the tops of your scones with the heavy cream so they get a nice they'll have a nice extra bit of moisture to them, and then they'll also brown up really, really nice. This is a really good idea if you're not going to use the glaze afterwards, just so that it does give them a little bit of extra creaminess. If you are using the glaze, probably don't have to do this, just because the glaze is going to be like, have enough moisture to it that you won't have to worry about your scones being too dry with the glaze on. You can just do this if you have any extra heavy whipping cream. I've got quite a bit extra. So I think I'm gonna paint the bejesus out of these guys. Just because I have a lot of heavy whipping cream left, but it's not enough to like be able to really do anything else with it. So. And also, I don't know if you're like me, but I tend to have the issue where I constantly need whipping cream, but I never have a good amount of it, and I always end up, like, always ends up going bad before I actually use it again. So a handy trick that I found is that you can actually freeze your heavy whipping cream. Just put it in an airtight container, and then when it comes out of the freezer, it'll look kind of It might look a little bit chunky, but it's perfectly fine. And that just will help you preserve the life of your whipping cream a little bit longer. The one thing to note though about it is that it doesn't whip up very good afterwards. So that's why I like to have it for when I'm gonna want to make scones or something, or if I know that I have heavy whipping cream in the freezer and it needs to be used up. Scones is a really good way to use it up because scones are just so much better if you use heavy whipping cream in them than just if you use like regular milk. So, and you don't have to whip it up either. So it's a good way to use up extra heavy whipping cream that's been in the freezer to actually make whipping cream out of it. It just doesn't get very stiff. So there we go. I'm almost done. I just have so much, and I don't want it to go to waste. So might as well go on here. But anyway, when you're done painting these scones, they can go in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. Keep an eye on them, that they don't get, the tops don't burn with this heavy whipping cream, but 15 to 20 minutes should do them. And then you're gonna let them cool, and then I will show you immediately after this how to do the glaze for your scones. Do a nice brown sugar glaze. So we'll do that, and then we'll be putting that glaze onto the cooled scones. Boom, there we go. All right, let's bake these guys. We are making the glaze for our scones now. So we're gonna do a brown sugar glaze. So you're gonna need 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, a tablespoon of water, a tablespoon of softened butter, half a teaspoon of vanilla, a 1/4 cup of icing sugar, and then I've got my handy dandy little salt shaker here just in case I find it too sweet. Always a good idea to have this when you are making your icings, and that way you can salt your icing or glaze or buttercream or whatever it is to your desired flavor. So we're also going to need a bowl and a whisk. So first we're going to take our brown sugar and our water, and we're just going to mix these guys together. Perfect. Then we are going to take our softened butter and we are going to whisk this guy in. There we go. So our mixture is going to be kind of looking a little curdled and gross, but that's okay. That's going to change once we add in our icing sugar and vanilla. So we're going to pour in our vanilla. And my vanilla likes to stick to the bowl, so I got to scrape it right out. It's difficult to do with a whisk. And then icing sugar. And now once you're done this step, once it's all done mixing together, this is where you can really choose how thick of a glaze you want. So if you want more of a thicker glaze, you just add more icing sugar until it's at the desired consistency. And if you want more thinner glaze, then you just add more water, or you can add more milk. Same goes with any glaze. If you want it thicker, add icing sugar. If you want it thinner, add water or milk. Okay, there we go. Let's give this a try, shall we? I'm using my finger. I'm gonna be the only one who's gonna be eating these, so. delicious. However, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. So the trick for this is to just add a little shake, stir it around, and then you just have to keep trying the icing, which is really too bad. That's pretty good. I'm just gonna leave it right there then. So then we have our nice glaze, nice brown sugar glaze, and we are going to be drizzling this over top of our scones as soon as they're cool. And here we have it, folks, our brown sugar butter pecan scones. This is what they look like without the glaze on them. And then I'm gonna drizzle some of this glaze on top right now. You can see what it looks like with. So no glaze, and let's drizzle some of that beautiful brown sugar glaze. Boom, perfect. And that's how they're looking. Delicious.